Um,
So another AEW question. Corey wants to know, what all do you want to accomplish in AEW? You've done a lot, Jeff. You know, the Heroes Welcome at Wembley and the Owen, and you know, you've had some tag title matches and had a lot of fun with Jay, and got to travel with Cody, and got to work some TV main events and be in the ring with Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, and became the Texas Death Chainsaw Massacre champion of the world. But is there one thing, one little itch you'd like to scratch in AEW that you haven't shared with us?
well, I don't think I'm going to share it with you, Conrad. I think that's maybe for a private conversation, but I'll say this. I don't think, as crazy as you are, Conrad, and the ad free team and our ad free family who's rocking and rolling with us on this Sunday evening, nobody had it really on their bingo card for the last outlaw to be a babyface. Is that
That's
safe
right.
to say, Conrad?
Yes, sir.
And I think that there is a couple of different opponents that I have on my radar that I believe, and I'm preaching to myself here, that there can become an emotional connection to our audience, and they're going to 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 take a real bite of, I want to see this. I mean, I think there was just, and look, it was a TV kind of situation, and it kind of morphed out of the Owen and all this. But that strap match that me and Hanger had um, at Arthur Ashe, um, I'm still getting a ton of feedback on that. So I just think there's a couple of different opponents that I'd like to see. I'd like to see come to fruition. The because I think there's, and we'll call it a story or an angle, but I think there's a lot of meat on the bone to be had that I believe I can contribute to this business. For years and years, and I got emotional tonight on Ric Flair last match. The producer Sean asked me a question. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's like, it's what I do. I mean, what an honor it was, as crazy as Rick is, but to do the honors on which I believe is his last match. But just Conrad, the way you promoted it, and all the purple and white confetti, and Undertaker there, and Mick Foley there, and Kid Rock, and I mean, it was. You kind of think about that, Conrad, how all the layers of the puzzle and the undercard, and my gosh, Road Dogg backstage producing the show, and my relationship with him, and just the who's who in the back and all that. But for me to play the role that I believe I was, I've tried to work hard and refine it, and what I do is make the people happy, make them feel fulfilled. I think I've got a couple of those opportunities in AEW to really give back to the business.
Well, something else you've been giving back to the business is you've been smartening up the youth about our friends at Blue Chew. If there's one thing that Jeff is an expert on, it's the stroke, and he's hit more strokes than anybody in the business. And you can too, thanks to Blue Chew. It's an online service that delivers you the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. And the process is simple. You just sign up over at bluechew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, well, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew wants to help you have the confidence to perform at your best. So discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, and the promo code is MyWorld, and you'll receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. And Jeff Sweener.
And Waffle Stomper Dave Silvers.
Johnny Sanders has a question for us, and he wants to know what's Jeff's greatest what if in his career? Let's just stop right there. What's your greatest what if?
Can you give me an example? Like, okay, greatest.
What if you would have went to ECW? What
Oh,
if your dad would have gotten control of the World Wrestling Federation?
I'll say this. What if, and look, this is putting it on my shoulders. What if me and Road Dogg, if the climate would, what happens? Just long story short, what happens if we had not walked out?
That's the one you think about.
Well, I can't say that I think about it because I think about the good and the bad that all came out of that. But just the climate and kind of, that year alone, Conrad, 95. We did I had a single main event at Madison Square Garden against Kevin Nash and Diesel, short one, but it was for different circumstances in the Backlund deal. The tag, me and Sean against Razor and Scott. As time went along, we know they jumped ship and we know why, but that would have been, there was opportunity there when you kind of look at Kevin and Scott when they jumped. That's 2 main event slots that would have opened up, and just kind of the trajectory, just how Vince brought talent along. He always brought them up IC, and then from IC you worked a little bit longer and you edge up a little more, and that is just kind of so I do look back on that time frame. And then also, there was good and bad. What happens if I wouldn't have left? It's obviously Vince was off selling his company and taking it public, and JR.
Well, hang on now. Let's just back up because I think this is worth pointing out. If you wouldn't have walked out in 95, you would have been placed. I mean, I hate that we're talking about it like this, but I'm just going to say it from my perspective. You would have been in a different spot on the roster when Stone Cold comes in. So when Steve Austin comes in and he's trying his ringmaster thing and all that, you would have been slotted higher on the cards versus when you walk away for a bit and you're gone for a while, his star really ascends. And now you're kind of the new guy, even though you're not really the new guy when you come back. So it does feel like there would have been more of an opportunity for you to work with Stone Cold because of where you would have been slated on the card relative to him. You had already been an established Intercontinental Champion, working some main events and so forth. And so the whole thing changes if you don't walk out.
We worked together in Texas. It's not like we were strangers. Yeah, he got pissed off about the check, but when we saw each other, we knew each other.
But I'm saying that promo where you were cutting that promo in 97, that would have never happened in that circumstance. So the whole thing looks a whole lot different. Yes. And I would have thought that's where you were going when you were saying the greatest what if would have been the Stone Cold stuff in 97. But to your point, when you go back to 95, if you don't walk out, man, that whole those puzzle pieces fit together so much differently then.
Complete. It possibly, we talked earlier in kind of the episode, and I was going to finish my thought, just kind of betting on myself, right or wrongly. But Conrad, how many times have you bet on yourself? I mean,
anytime you're an entrepreneur and you're going to, as you like to say, get out over your skis, we do that on a regular basis.
Yes.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And we wind up usually learning more from the things that don't work. And we say, ooh, I'm not going to do that again. But that pain is so much better than the pain of, man, I wonder what. I mean, I don't want to wonder. I want to find out. And then we know.
Amen. I mean, and then that's exactly. When I kind of look at my, we'll call it 93 to 2001 and the contracts and all that, there was so much of that knowledge I gained and thought about. And look, I made so many screw ups starting TNA, but still the entrepreneurial spirit is what's carried me to this day. There's no doubt in my mind. The baseball stuff we have going on, Conrad, I just went and talked about it, but the Summer Ball Summit that I spoke at last Monday, that kind of stuff I absolutely loved it. And, there are a bunch of minor league promoters, GMs and all this. And I think it's an honor. They want to come down and say, hey, Jeff, talk to us about promoting. They're asking questions before and after and all that. I kind of only had a half hour for my whole slot, and I drilled it down on this kind of to my 3 L's of promoting. You got to listen, you got to learn, and then you got to lead. And I really leaned into leading. When it's time to go promote, you've got to go head first into it. And when I think about the betting on myself and the opportunities and the baseball and the gaming, and we laugh and cut up about all kinds of stuff. But it's kind of in our DNA, wouldn't you say?
Totally. Can't agree more. The other part of that question that I really want to ask you that Johnny Sanders asked was, is there a Mount Rushmore of matches you wish you would have seen in person? So when you just think about your fandom, I'm not talking about your personal career, just your fandom. Man, if I could have been in the ring to see that one, an example might be WrestleMania 3 with Hulk Hogan and Andre or something like that. But I'm talking about just not like these are the biggest matches in wrestling history, but Jeff Jarrett, the fan, man, I wish I could have been there to see that.
So I grew up hearing of the legend and lore of Lawler versus Dundee. I just, and I got to witness, a couple in 85 and 86 and then through the years. But I've seen the highlights of Lawler Dundee, Mid-South Coliseum, 82-ish. And I know it's a different era, but knowing that building, and I can, and I've watched this back in the day, just watch the people react to it and how they were into it like it was a game 7 of the NBA finals, just on every move. So I'd love to have been hell on the front row of some of those matches because of the drama that when Jerry was on a big money match, he knew how to create the cadence and the timing and the build like none other. I just think he's just off the charts. That's up there. So Mount Rushmore of matches I wish I was in the building. Kurt Hennig in his prime, because I watched him in AWA and as he was Kurt Hennig and all that. But when he, we'll call it, transitioned, if you will, and became the Mr. Perker character, but then he still had the athleticism and the way to put together him and Brett, is my understanding that they had series of matches that were really, really good. I could probably go through several. Shawn Michaels. I could probably name 3 or 4 different folks that been on the front row and watch Shawn, the drama. And then at the end of the day, I'm not sure that when we look back over the period and Undertaker, his run from whatever until he had the longevity is incredible. But as far as main events, night after night after night, from for 12, 14 years, Cena. And so Cena's opponents, one after another. I got a lot of respect for John and its worth ethic and just how well he carried himself, but the dude did nothing but draw money. And so that in and of itself, Cena match, Shawn match, Lawler match, Kurt Hennig, Brett match. Those are kind of the ones I guess you could say. I know I'm going to miss a few here and there that I would think, yeah. Kurt in his
is there one John Cena match in particular? Is there one Shawn Michaels match in particular? Like, would you have liked to have seen Shawn and Undertaker at WrestleMania 25? Is that the one?
Well, yes, but that's so full of drama, and just the size difference on that isn't amazing. But and the Shawn Kurt match, and look, I'm thinking, you go over to Japan, Tanahashi has got some in his archives of 5 stars, if you will. Yes, it's a different culture and a different setting, but man, he's got some all timers. But no, a Shawn match, yeah, I think Taker would be up there.
I'm not asking for individual guys. I mean matches. Is there one Shawn match that you wish, man, I wanted to be in the building for that? I mean, some people might say I would have liked to seen this match with Ric Flair for the "I'm Sorry, I Love You." Others would say, man, I really wanted to be there the night Stone Cold beat him. Or I would have liked to have been there for the Montreal screw job or any of those critical moments in history rather than just, hey, I like his work.
I got you. Sean Taker.
Yeah.
That's to me, it's a defining, the biggest stars of the 90s in Mania in the 2000s.
Yeah, for sure.